Yo, what's up YouTube? Breadbird here, back with another New World video. Today we are going to talk about equip load. Danny and I got into the PTR and the live client and did some testing about all things equip load to help you guys make a more informed choice on what the best equip load would be for your character. Now, real quick before we hop in here, we're looking at only the most optimal armor setups for each equip load. As we look at light armor, you're going to have equipped a medium chest and a light head, pants, gloves, and boots. The normal load category, you're going to have a heavy helmet, a heavy chest, medium gloves, medium boots, and light pants. And finally, of course, we have heavy, which is basically just all heavy armor. Most optimally, you would also want a tower shield with this build if you're using sword and shield. But for the most part, once you've breached that heavy equip load, there's no turning back. You basically, at that point, just want to accumulate as much resistance as you possibly can. So the first thing we did look at was dodge distance. Now, we tried to figure out exactly what the dodge distance was of each dodge. Some things that we figured out was that the heavy and the normal dodge distance is almost the same exact animation time, the same iframe time. We're going to show you guys a lot about that later. And then the light dodge was a little bit further than these. So we did some testing with a couple of abilities which we knew the radius distance of, more specifically Incinerate, Sacred Ground, and Oblivion. So Sacred Ground and Incinerate are 3-meter radius spells, and of course Oblivion is a 5-meter. We couldn't find a 4-meter. We were trying, but I don't think there is currently one in the game. If you guys know of one, let us know in the comments below, but we weren't able to find one. So basically we did testing, and what we found, or at least concluded, is that the normal and heavy dodges seem to be about 3 meters in distance, and the light dodge would be in between 3 and 5. We could use 4. It may not be exactly 4, but it does seem to be between 5 and 3. So if you go with that conclusion, 3 normal dodges should be a little bit longer than 2 light dodges. And as we tested that was the case. That normal dodges is about 9 meters at max. And then, of course, your light dodges is about 8 meters at max. Heavy falls in the same category. Of course, in a heavy equip weight, normally you can only get 2 dodges. But if you use the hardy perk, which we also tested, you could get 3 dodges with heavy and light. So then, of course, that starts to look pretty different, because with a medium equip load, you can only have 3 dodges, even if you have a hardy or not hardy. So basically, the max dodge distance of light armor with the hardy perk is going to be in the neighborhood of 12 meters. Of course, heavy is going to be around 9, and then medium stays about 9 as well. This becomes significant because there are a lot of abilities that have a 10-meter distance, and that would be Fletch and Charge. So the next thing we looked at was iframes. Interestingly enough, despite the difference in distance between these 3 dodges, the iframes were the same. You know, basically down to a frame or 2, and that mostly because of user error. But we got really close, and again, it was only a frame difference, so I think it's fair to assume at this point that the amount of iframes that each dodge receives is about the same. At base dodge amount, that would be without hardy, the medium armor would provide the greatest amount of iframes. Now, of course, if you include hardy, all 3 would include the same amount of iframes. I think the question there is if you want the hardy perk or not. Now, the next thing, of course, we did look at was damage. Now, as we did the testing, heavy armor obviously came in at 1.0 modifier. You don't get a damage modifier for wearing heavy. Medium had a 1.1 times damage modifier. Now, as we didn't test all the perks and how they calculate out with this damage, but it's just, I think, good to know for users that you are getting that base increase to your damage. And then, of course, light armor was at 1.2, which would be a 20% increase from its current damage. Healing, same goes for that. What they reported is what is happening. You're getting a 1.0 increase of healing for heavy, a 1.15 increase multiplier for medium armor for healing, and then, of course, on light armor, you're getting 1.3. The next thing we tested is mitigation. Now, an important note, this was all recorded at 500 gear score with 590 expertise, just in case that affects anything. Now, this is pretty interesting because it's not on paper, mostly because right now in New World, you can equip whatever armor you want, and as long as you fall in a certain equip load. We did find the light armor mitigation to be around 25% mitigated. Not a bad percent mitigation for a light armor user. Medium armor mitigated a 37.7% on average. That is almost a 13% increase in mitigation from light to medium. This is the largest gap between any of the equip loads. And one important to note as we compare the differences between the three. Heavy armor, not a very great increase than what we had expected. It mitigated 45%, so 20% more than light armor, but the difference between medium and heavy armor wasn't that significant. It was under 8% difference, and if you look at the gap between light and medium, which was a 12.7%, it's a little underwhelming. Now, to double back a little bit, again, we did test all 500 gear score armor. It was the easiest thing to get. That was all balanced in the same level. So I did get some numbers from a guy named Mixed Nuts. He reached out to me on Twitch and showed me his armor mitigation calculator. And I was pretty happy to find that the numbers that we had tested or found are pretty close to the same. We tested with a 500 gear score weapon against 500 gear score armor, and this particular bit of information is 600 weapon against 600 armor. And again, you see the total mitigation here of 25.17% for light, 37.91% for medium, and then of course 45.45% for armor. So it lines up almost identical to the information we got, so that's always good to know. I did want to show this tool to you guys. Very awesome work by Mixed Nuts. Big thanks to him for letting me use this in this video. So now, which should you choose for each build that you're doing, and what exactly are you getting when you choose light, medium, or heavy equip load? For light armor, I gave mobility a B. It's slightly less mobile out of the box than medium, but if you use the sturdy perk on your ring, your mobility gets a significant boost, and that also boosts your survivability, which I gave a C for light armor. Obviously, the more iframes you get with the extra dodge roll with sturdy, you can increase your survivability to a B or even higher if you're good at making sure you time your dodge rolls correctly. Of course, damage and healing I both gave an A. The modifiers for both of these things are unmatched in the armor category. Now, for the builds I'd recommend light armor for is range DPS. Obviously, most people in a mage build or a dexterity build using a bow or a musket should be in light armor. There's no reason not to get that increased damage modifier. Ideally, in these builds, you're wanting to kite, not take damage directly. So it's a no-brainer to be in light in those. I would recommend in PvE, a healer should be in light armor, even in PvP most times, because the rapier is kind of the meta weapon to have on the back bar for healer now. The mobility and survivability that rapier will increase. Healers should also be using the light armor setup in most situations in 1.2. In PvE, you're very dependent upon someone taking aggro from you in most cases anyways, so why not have light armor to get the boost of healing on both your life staff and your void gauntlet if you have that on the back bar. And in PvP, specifically Outpost Rush and open world PvP, a lot of healers have adopted the rapier on the back bar. It is a very powerful build, adds a lot of increased mobility and survivability, which allows the healer to use light armor and get the 1.3 times healing modifier as well. And then, of course, there are some burst melee DPS builds with Great Axe or even Void Gauntlet that use light armor. So in those cases, getting the increased damage modifier, and with the Void Gauntlet, kind of getting that increase in healing as well, can be pretty awesome when you're in close range. Obviously, it's important that you time your dodging and everything well here, but I would definitely recommend light armor for those builds as well. Up next is medium armor. Now, medium armor came out to be the best overall armor setup in 1.2. Mobility and survivability both get an A. Of course, you have the 3 dodge rolls at 3 meters. That's the farthest dodge roll potential of any base setup. Medium armor receives a 13% increase to mitigation over light armor. Another big reason to choose medium armor. And then finally, you do get some decent damage and healing modifiers with medium as well. So the recommended builds that you would use with medium armor, I would say the most popular build would be your Warhammer Great Axe build. They should be using medium armor now, just because of the mitigation difference between medium and heavy isn't that big. And then you couple that in with the extra dodge roll or iframes, the increased damage modifier. It's just best to go ahead and use medium armor for those builds now if you're not already. Next is the paladin build, the healer build with the warhammer on the back bar. Still very viable in PvP, and it benefits from the medium as well. You get the 15% increase to healing, and then you also get the mobility and the survivability of the medium armor. The last build that's using it right now that's popular in the meta is the mid-range DPS build, the mage build with the fire staff and the void gauntlet. They are using Void Blade, which requires you to be close to your targets. You can benefit from the increased survivability and the mobility. And then, of course, you get a little bit of that damage modifier. As a lot of them use int and focus, so you also get the healing modifier bonus as well. Pretty powerful overall build, especially when coupled with medium armor. Last, we'll move to heavy armor. Now, heavy armor is in a very odd place right now, mainly because it was one of the most popular equip weights at the beginning of the game, but since they've fixed a lot of the bugs associated with it, it's kind of been put back in its place. Now, you only really want to use the heavy equip load when you have a tower shield, when you're trying to tank in expeditions or stand on the point in sieges or outpost rush. The mobility of this build is a C. The dodge goes the same distance as medium, but you get one less dodge with your standard package. Of course, you can use hardy on this build as well. That will bring you up to the amount of iframes and dodges that you get with medium armor, but of course, you're still missing that damage and healing increase with only an 8% difference in mitigation. So again, you just want to use heavy if you're a tank. If you have a tower shield, you're using the block stability, you're standing on point, the 8% mitigation is going to be beneficial to you. You're probably going to have a ton of con as well, which you'll get the con perks. We can talk a little bit more about that in another video. But overall, heavy armor is just not in a great place as far as benefits go. So you just want to stay away from this equip load unless you're a tank. All right, guys. Well, that about does it for equip loads. Let us know in the comments below what equip load you're using for your build. Special thank you to Mixed Nuts for the damage and mitigation calculator, for Drucifer, a guy in our company. He got naked for me, so thank you to Drew. And then, of course, Danny for helping me test all of this stuff. Put a lot of time into this, so thank you guys very much to them. Don't forget to hit that subscription button, the notification bell for more New World content like this, and we'll see you in the next video.